So you want to main Fenrir, the Unbound. First, ask yourself, why do you want to main Fenrir? He's a pretty fun god. He can be played both as a support and a jungler, and even in solo. Fenrir is the goodest boy. They finally released Fenrir. But before you choose to main him, it's good to know the cons of Fenrir. He doesn't have the best clear. His passive can prevent him from using abilities. Fenrir is a Norse SMITE assassin. SMITE has classified him as an average god, and I do find him average. A quick note, if you're an experienced Fenrir player or you just love playing him, feel free to leave any tips down in the comments below. In this guide, we're exploring Fenrir as a support and jungler, going through his abilities, attack cancelling, combos, builds, counters, what not to do, and general combat tips. You can also implement this guide into other game modes as well. With that, let's go through Fenrir's abilities. Fenrir's passive, Unbound runes. Fenrir gains efficiency as he basic attacks. Every hit from a basic attack activates one rune up to a maximum of 5. Assist and kills grant Fenrir 3 runes. This passive applies to all of his abilities except his second ability, Seething Hell. When used, the runes will be consumed. This makes Fenrir reliant on his passive as it provides really good benefits to his abilities. Most of the time, you'll always want to use an ability when you have full runes. You can keep track of his runes here on the bottom left. Fenrir's first ability, Unchained. Fenrir's 1 is a leap ability type. Fenrir leaps forward, dealing damage to all enemies when he lands. At full runes, the leap stuns the enemy's hit. If the leap hits a god, the cooldown is halved. This is Fenrir's main escape, engagement, and it also does great damage. A majority of the time, you want your runes to go into this ability because the stun can set up so much. And even if you use it before you have full runes, it does also half the cooldown, so you can still get a lot of damage off. But that's if you hit an enemy god. Fenrir's second ability, Seething Howl. Fenrir's 2 is a buff ability type. Fenrir howls, inspiring himself with a physical power buff and lifesteal. This is Fenrir's main sustain. This buff lasts for 6 seconds. Fenrir's third ability, Brutalize. Fenrir's 3 is a leap ability type. Fenrir gains increased physical protections and pounces to his ground target's location. He strikes them 4 times, dealing damage with each strike. He's immune to knockups during this ability. At full runes, each strike deals 75% damage to nearby enemies. Right-clicking will end it early, which is good to note as sometimes enemies can drag you into places you don't want to be in. It also leaves Fenrir very vulnerable to CC. It's also good to know that this ability is cancelled out if an enemy uses a leap, such as Hui's escape or Neve's backflip, or even Scylla's. This ability can be used as an escape. Fenrir's ultimate, Ragnarok. Fenrir's ultimate is a single target ability type. Fenrir grows massive in size, becoming immune to CC while moving faster. Fenrir bites enemy gods, dealing damage and carrying them away. Biting a CC immune target deals the damage but ends his ultimate. At full runes, his protections double. This ability is a great setup and can also be used as an escape and to avoid CC. When using this ability, I recommend holding the enemy in place in front of your allies so they can do the damage for you instead. This is especially important as a support. Before we get into leveling priorities, I would like to note that it's really up to preference as well. After watching different high-level players play, they seem to prioritize different abilities, especially for jungle. For the first 5 levels as a support, at level 1 his 1, at level 2 his 3, at level 3 his 1, at level 4 his 3, at level 5 his ultimate, at level 6 his 2. For leveling priority, his 1 for increased damage, his 3 for increased damage and protections, his 2 for increased power physical buff, his ultimate for increased damage. So basically 1, 3, 2, 4. For the first 5 levels as a jungler, you can do a similar pathway as a support because the jump still does a lot of damage and you do use it a lot, but otherwise, at level 1 his 3, at level 2 his 1, at level 3 his 3, at level 4 his 1, at level 5 his ultimate, at level 6 his 2. For leveling priority, the same as the support pathway except prioritize his third ability over his first ability, if you're following this pathway of course. So basically 3, 1, 2, 4. Attack cancelling for Fenrir. For his first ability, use your first ability and basic when you land, so you can just keep your attack button clicked to make it easier. With his second ability, as soon as you fire your second ability, use your basic attack. With his third ability, as soon as your third ability animation ends, use your basic attack. You can also just keep your attack button clicked to make it easier. Also, this works even if you cancel the ability early. For his ultimate, as soon as you fire your basic, use your ultimate. As soon as you drop the enemy, use your basic. Combos for Fenrir. Before we get into combos, a few pointers. Fenrir can make use of Blink. Feel free to do so if you want more of an aggressive playstyle. Remember that Fenrir gains additional benefits when his runes are full. This makes him more reliant on his passive, as most of the time you want your runes to be full. His runes are mostly used with his first ability, as the stun is such a nice setup. Although, his second ability is not as slightly valued as his first ability and third ability. Use it when you can, but this ability can signal enemies that you're going to engage, so keep note of that. With that in mind, I'm not going to include his 2 in the combos. Just use it when you're able to. It's usually used when you're basic attacking an enemy, so it can be before a combo, or during, or after. A very important note, especially as a support, you can hold the enemy in your ultimate in front of your allies. That way, they can kill the enemy that's helplessly hanging in your mouth. For short combos, 1 and 3, 1 and 4. For medium combos, 1, 4, 3. Combos with Blink, Blink, 4, 1, 3. Blink, 1, 4. I recommend the last combo if you have full runes. That way you'll have the stun on your first ability. Builds for Fenrir. Builds always depend on what kind of enemies you're up against. My builds in these videos is just a general guideline. You can adjust accordingly depending on your game and situations. For a support build, Guardian's Blessing, Reinforced Greaves, only Hunter's Garb or Sovereignty, depending on your matchup decides which you get first, but you want both right after each other. Lono's Mask. And then it comes down to situational items, but not limited to Magi's Cloak if CC is an issue, Heart Ward for magical defense aura, Midgardian Mail if AA gods are an issue, Mantle of Discord if you're not surviving team fights, Pestilence if you need anti-heal. For relics, it also depends, but usually Fenrir support picks up Horrific Emblem, and then after that it could be what your team needs, such as Heavenly Agility or Shell, but also not limited to. For a jungle build, Fenrir is pretty flexible, which makes it a bit confusing on what to build for him. Here is an example build you could follow, but adjust accordingly to your game. Assassin's Blessing, Shoten's Wrath or Brawler's Beatstick if you need anti-heal, Warrior Tabi, Ancile, Crusher, Spirit Robe, Shifter's Shield. Other items you could grab, but not limited to are Bloodforge for Lifesteal, Void Shield for power and physical defense, Mantle of Discord, Magi's Cloak. For relic, it also depends on jungle, but if you want an aggressive playstyle, choose Blink and then grab Beads or Aegis. Usually though, it would be Beads. Counters of Fenrir. Beads and Magi's Cloak counter Fenrir's stun and ultimate. Off-ground target escapes counter his third ability. Being prepared. Fenrir often has to go in and hard engage. If the enemy prepares it, they can punish him for it. In his 3, the enemy can drag him anywhere, even into other enemies' abilities and such. Be wary of this. Cripples counter Fenrir's first and third ability. Hard god counters against Fenrir include but not limited to are Ardio, Ares, Awilish, and Kepri. He's super easy to kill without defense. What not to do as Fenrir. Do not jump in by yourself as a support if you do not have allies to back you up. You either die or it's just a waste, unless enemies are killable for you. Do not complete the full animation of the third ability if the enemy is dragging you into a dangerous place like under tower for example. Just cancel out of it. Do not be afraid to use your ultimate as an escape if everything else is down. General combat tips for Fenrir. Remember that Fenrir's third ability is considered a leap, which means you can get out of Odin's cage for example, or go through walls. Also keep note that as it is a leap, Awilish can use her ultimate on you when you do this. Remember that you can use your first and third ability and ultimate as an escape. As a clearing tip in jungle for the early stages, stack up your runes on the jungle camp and then use your third ability. Remember that with full runes, it does 75% damage to enemies nearby the target. And that is all for the Fenrir guide. If you would like to request a god guide or simply just to support me, you can find a Ko-fi donation link in the description box down below. Let me know what gods you would like to main next in the comments. I'll also be streaming on www.twitch.tv/SuperTeeds, mostly Smite, Pokemon Let's Go, and Smash. I have a lot of Smite skins to give away if you want to enter for that as well. Subscribing and likes would be super rad. Clicking the bell really helps me out. I hope to see you for the next one. Bye!